Peace, shalom, greetings to all involved, all evolving. Shout out to everyone. Where is this page at? Give an honor to source, give an honor to the all, give an honor to you. Respect, love, clarity, give an honor to ancestors known and unknown, for the good of all, to the harm of none. Ashe. Oh my God, don't you? Where is these notes? Okay, so anywho, why I find this is one thing about creating content or creating something, especially when you have healed or healing through something, and like just having the courage to speak up and talk about it. This is going to be a very sensitive, it can be triggering for some. If it's not for you, let the shit move, fly over you like the wind. Most of, again, it's really speaking from my experience, but in most of the time, a lot of things that, again, I'm not concerned, like, I'm gonna be speaking from my truth, we're just gonna call it that, and how much it can and has affected me and others. Oh my gosh, where all the, yo, whenever you got a notebook or a journal, you know how you just writing stuff? I got poetry, I got stuff everywhere. Is that it? No. She. Y'all bear with me, or have patience. Tell you, I know everyone's feeling whatever you're going through right now. The best thing I would tell people is just breathe. Put on some classical music. Yeah, something. I'm abundant, I'm prolific, I am wealthy, I honor my emotions. Oh my gosh, yo. See, they be like this when you, well, in the meantime, I'm gonna speak about this masterpiece. Let me see, is the lighting good? Okay, I gotta turn it that way. Y'all see that? I'm pretty sure you can. You see the eyes, the tears. This is like a representation of like others, all different cultures, people from different, you know, creeds and colors, or not so much as colors, just from different backgrounds. But anywho, showing the significance of how pain can connect us all, and the symbolism of that, and getting more onto that. Where is these freak? Yo, you gotta be kidding me, yo. So this message, this topic, is more so about, where is that lighting? I didn't know. Oh, I forgot it's white, that's why. As you can see, the aggressive hand here, and this can be looked at many different ways. For one, it's symbolic to like someone's laying down and being forced upon, or and that's what this rape awareness video is about, and molestation. And that's why this topic is gonna be very sensitive. I gotta get this lighting right. It don't even matter. I'm gonna just go through with it. And like the innocence, those of you that have been affected by this, whether it be childhood and even teen or adulthood, and still being haunted with these things. The reason I'm trying to find these notes that I got is because it's specifically in an order to where, why it is I'm speaking about this. So this can also be seen as like not only being forced, but also in a way of like aggression, like abuse. And I feel like, from my opinion, even in that, like, both are a form of some type of abuse. And come on, Spirit, where are these notes at? This topic. This is how you know it's gonna be good, because you gotta have patience with yourself. Let me tell you. Not to me. No. Oh, that was it. Okay, come on, we can do this. We can do this. You gotta encourage yourself. This is very, for me, a lot of stuff I had to been sitting with before I even created this. Like, I cried even doing this. I thought about myself. I thought about others who have told me their story. And for me, it's like, even with this, there was people I met, and I used to question why we're meeting people on my journey who had went through this significantly. And I'm like, and sometimes we don't even realize those are the signs that the divine or spirit is trying to reveal to us. Like, are you really sheltering these things? Have you really acknowledged this? Have you really, faced these things? And so I have a way of facing it, accepting it, doing the inner work, and seeing how that has affected me, my sexuality, am I doing this from a place of unfulfillment, leading me down the road of, like, am I overly using my spilling out, talk about semen, or, releasing, am I doing this from a place of unfulfillment, from a lustful place? Bam! I done went past this. Oh my gosh, I done went past this like 30 times. But perfect though. So let me see where I can get to. Well, y'all able to see, like, when you creating something, sometimes, bam. Yeah. So again, here's the picture. And these topics that I'm gonna go over, for those of you that haven't seen it, this took a lot of courage for me to do because of my artistry, and to me having to be honest with myself about my relationship with myself, my accepting who I am. Even the first topic, my personal relationships, and for me, it had a lot to do with, even at the age that I am now, it had a lot to do with relationships that I was giving from a place of not just unfulfillment, but just the fact of how what I learned and what I witnessed from that experience of someone forcefully kissing on you, or and it's even deeper. Like, I only shared this with someone else, but and it's very deep for me. I am someone who has suffered from concussions before, and when I was younger, I was hit by a car, and this was also during the process of when I was younger, like 4 or 5. That's when, again, like, my mom's friend, she would always be overly, like, touchy in a way that was make someone, even a child, feel uncomfortable. I would say not even months ago, when my mom, like, came out, and I really never knew this, and I know this has happened because of, in the past, of having multiple concussions. Again, if those of you don't know what that means, it's like being knocked unconscious, and in that unconscious state, you're like, I don't know, it's like sometimes you just black out, and you wake up in this shock. And even now to my awareness, it's like even in that happening, I have noticed that a lot of memories are resurfacing. Um, when I was younger, I had a lot of, after a while, had a lot of, like a lot of migraines and headaches when I was younger after that. Trying to attempt to play football, but I had a spot right here, you probably can see it. I also had another incident where it's wild, yo. I'm telling y'all some deep shit. I really don't have nothing to hide. To where I was younger, you know, kids used to throw rocks and play. And I would, remember one time we was playing around this neighborhood we was in, where my aunt lived, and I threw a rock at this guy that was much older. I threw a rock at him, you know, and you know me being a kid, I'm like, you know, from what I recall, I'm like, you know, it's a rock, bro. You know, it wasn't something that really, like, damaged you in a way, like, bro, you know, but the way he reacted, and this is like, I don't show this a lot. As you can see right here, there's like an indention. But when I was younger, the guy had picked, after I threw a rock, he got a log, I kid you not, like a piece of wood, threw it at me. And this right here, this is graphic. This right here, as you can see the stitches, this right here was like ripped off, like it was hanging. And from that very moment, like, I just remember like running to my aunt or somewhere where I had to be rushed to the hospital and literally get stitches. So this happened like maybe years probably after, you know, the incident, where going back to how before the car incident. So even with all of that, suffering from concussions, a lot of that can have an effect on you, you know, you mentally to a way to where I'm glad I didn't have, you know, like severe damage to my brain or anything, but, you know, I survived it and I was grateful. And I still do recall, like, even those memories of, and this is why I'm talking about this today, it's like, my experience of being kissed on and forced on in a way to where, like, my mom eventually told me how there was an incident where the lady kissed me and one of her friends. And people don't realize, like, y'all don't realize, like, these folks be around, you know, these are older people. And you don't know what they're dealing with spiritually. But a part of me, what I felt is that, you know, why didn't my mother, and a lot of us can feel like this, is why didn't my mother and or father, whether our father or mother was there, why didn't we feel like they should have protected us from these peoples, or, you know, all these things? And she told me, and I didn't find out this till months ago at 33, to where she specifically said, I remember such and such kissing you and your face broke out. I actually wrote a poem about this in this book, or in one of my other books, talking about how me having the courage to speak about this, because for those of you who don't know that, and I've researched this, or even to where now you think about things and you're like, well, this woman, you don't know what they're doing sexually with another man. And, you know, this person had already had kids. And so you don't know what they're doing with their mouth. You don't know what has happened to them. And so, you know, just when I was younger, it's just the comments I would constantly hear, like when I was younger, like, ooh, your son so, you know, handsome, or he fine, or that's my baby, you know. And you're trying to process this in your mind, and you're not realizing this is becoming a love language to you. You're unconsciously, this is being subconsciously programmed. And see, this is started from when I was younger. You know, this is me developing a relationship on how I should be treated from women, how I should receive nurturing, how I should receive love, how I should be embraced. All these things play a major part in it, especially the first 7 years of a child's life. If the mother is present, is that mother is going to teach them nurturing, that mother is going to teach them love, you know, all these things that embody the feminine principles that we are, being that we both carry masculine and feminine principles. So now, being at an age now where I realize this was a dysfunctional or distorted mother, or a woman that was hurting. Not to mention, you know, when I was younger, and I give honor and I'm grateful for my lessons, but I'm able to express is that I knew my mother like would be out there in the street. So this lady, I would have to be the caretaker for her kids. See, I was in elementary school, but her kids were, um, you know, younger than me. So even in that stage, I was still forced to even, in ways, parenting myself or being my own guardian. You know, while whatever they did, you know, in return, there was so much in and out to where, again, this is me learning the process of what a relationship is, expecting this in future dynamics with women. Not to mention, you know, being that I had these concussions, you know, I recently found out maybe so a year ago that other family members who, and this is why I speak about so much about my own like experiences, that I recently found out like um, people in my family coming out and telling me about their experiences with other family members, um, you know, touching on them when we were younger. And this is what a lot of people are so fearful of talking about, because you're trying in your mind to wrap your mind around the fact of did this just happen? And then not to mention you're questioning yourself. Um, and so for me, you know, I came to that awareness, you know, consciously, because again, talking about having these what do you call them, being these concussions, you know, a lot of which your memory starts to come back to you slowly. If those of you don't know, that when you have a concussion, whether football or something traumatic, your memory could return gradually. You know, it can be a fast or not so fast process, or a slow process, and over time, you know, because I would be out with my mom, you know, remember when I was younger being out with her sometimes, you know, while she was out in the street. And so going into these different places and not realizing when I was younger, these were dope houses or crack houses or something you don't know. And more so being around people who prostituted, or um, whatever you want to call it. They did what they did, but again, the judgment is not mine. It was just, again, me bringing the awareness to what I was being susceptible to, or what do you call it, like my reality of what I'm bringing into my reality when I was younger. And then now acknowledging this. And again, being, you know, realizing that these people have lived with this. Not only myself, but you have, you know, family members that I had no idea of. You're talking about, I had to be the one that say something one time, you know, and the in denial. Sometimes we don't even realize we're living with so much in denial, that, and we don't want to accept that it happened because we don't know how to. And then our body, and it's wild, because some of us that have been affected by this in some way, it's like your body, your body may have, does your body really accept it? You know, your mind, because of the forcefulness of this, you know, it's like your mind consciously, or, you know, you're haunted with these thoughts or these things, are like, did this just happen? Questioning yourself, you know, feeling conflicted and confused, like, and the delusion, and then this leading to self-sabotaging relationships, because I realized that when it was told to me, the rage that I felt when I heard it from someone being close to me, you know, I felt that within myself, like, what, you? And then this person? Because this is what is not, you know, the bullshit, that the dysfunction that keeps going on in these narratives, and it happens everywhere culturally. But you're talking about a people, whether, you know, you want to describe them as melanated, because again, it happens everywhere. But you're talking about how this goes unnoticed, or this is brushed up under the rug, not to mention people that I love and I care about, and them actually telling me, you know, their experiencing and how it has been brushed up under the rug, and you having mothers and or fathers or people, you know, so fucked up mentally in a way to where they don't even care, you know, or they don't even believe, like, you know, some mothers and people don't want to accept the fact that, like, no way. But this has been ongoing for so long that the bullshit about it is that it's becoming the norm. And that's not normal at all, because you're talking about someone's innocence. And then people having to live with that, being conflicted in their relationships. So if someone doesn't acknowledge it and address it, because this doesn't happen just only to women, it happens to men, it happens to children. It has happened, I know people in military, it has happened to people everywhere. And what that does to someone mentally, you know, for me, not only did I question my sexuality, like that always, but not only did I question my sexuality, not many people know about how the fact of, you know, when you're become susceptible to a Jezebel spirit, or to, you know, having people who carry that Jezebel spirit, or that incubus or succubus, or a jinn, if you want to research these things, because this shit has been running rapidly so long to where this is me calling it out for what it is spiritually. You know, you're thinking, you know, me acknowledging this, and then coming to that awareness of, like, you know, that spirit will have you, you know, at the time will have you in a place of, like, you know, these experiences, like, have you in a loop of reenacting, as I noted, your childhood wounds, you know, being that you were robbed of your innocence, and, you know, unconsciously. And then what that led me to do is to prey on others, because I'm not even aware at this time, is how I preyed on others in a way, whether it be, had I not came to the awareness what I was doing, is simply just looking at people externally rather than inwardly. So I was constantly meeting this energy, or this spirit was reintroducing itself through other people, whether it be men or women. Because again, I didn't have awareness of this. I didn't know what I was fighting against. Because at a time, and it goes as deep as, like, I was even, you know, it can be different for everyone. You know, I've met prostitutes. I've been in the presence of people who made a living from whatever they're doing by, you know, giving up their bodies. I've met people in my past that were even molested, like, as early as a baby. I met people who I realized the dynamics I was in is that, and I recognized what I was doing, and I also recognized how it was being reciprocated. It was an energy being, you know, it was an energy preying both on not you, but, you know, it was being bounced around through other people, because we were thinking, like, oh, you know, what being celibate is a joke, or ridding yourself of these things, or being disciplined in honoring your, who you are, and not and trying to see yourself as, you know, that child again, wanting to feel again, and how that setting wasn't in an intimate and sacred or healthy way. And so that leads to a feeling of not only humiliation, but you're feeling disgusted with yourself. You're feeling unworthy. It's so many things where, using wounding, as I said, using wounding as a narrative to keep this false perception of yourself that you refuse to acknowledge, or that I refuse to acknowledge, and not realizing how much I was hurting myself in the process of thinking, like, even you hear in music or certain things like, oh yeah, go do this to Shawty, or yeah, all this craziness of going around, just go mess with this person, go do this and do that, without even having the awareness of, like, do I really care about myself? Do you know that you can create something from this, a child, or, so many things with that. And this can happen, like, people who haven't been affected by this, is that in reality, we think this is the strength that I can F so good, or I can make someone feel so much, and oh yeah, I'm the best at this. And in reality, you fighting with a fucking spirit. You fighting with yourself. I'm fighting with myself. Let me speak from my experience. I'm fighting with myself. Because, and then in reality, from even I did modeling, I did a lot of things that would put me in the forefront where a lot of women would be. And so even in that, acknowledging that, I'm looking at myself like, oh yeah, I'm this, I'm that, being so more focused externally, like my appearance, rather than, not knowing what their background is, not realizing that I'm reenacting not only my childhood woundings or this pain, but I'm also seeking some type of fulfillment through that sex, through that desire of trying to feel again, when I'm really numbing myself. Meeting others again who this has happened to, and it gets so deep because you're realizing, like, everyone's journey isn't the same, but just the awareness of, like, how, you can relate to me. So you have been through this too. So these events keep reoccurring till we acknowledge the fact of, like, it's me. It's not even them. It's me. What am I not accepting in me? Then you become even more aware of, like, seeing people that you're related to, or just people around you who are also trying to push this spirit as if this is something normal, or there's no consequences to it. So for me, I even delved deeper within myself to where I realized how much I was not only affecting everyone, not myself, but everyone else, because it was just an in and out thing, like, well, let me just get this off. I ain't worrying about you. Let me just get mine, and that's it. Not realizing, like, who is this? Is this even me? Is this an entity attachment? Is this what? This is spiritual warfare. So I'm realizing, like, hearing these people and how much even who I've connected with, and hearing their stories. I had one guy I met in Oakland. It was so deep to where this guy had to be like at least 260, 270, like, big healthy guy, and to where I did this masterpiece on rape awareness. It was a huge masterpiece, and I had to show him, and how things were aligned. It just blew his mind, because when I presented it to him, he was like, bro, I don't know if from what I recall, he said something down the lines, and he was like, man, I never really told you this, but he was telling me the story of how he was when he was young, real young, I would say not even in his teenage, probably real young, to where he was raped by 2 women. And I'm thinking, like, how is this possible? So when I was in, listening to him, I realized how much the art, how it activated or triggered him or brung up a memory subconsciously to his awareness of, like, whoa. And so when he told me how he just remembered, like, going in the bathroom and these women, whatever they did, he just remembered waking up with, fluids on them and lotion, some other stuff he was saying, and that's what he recalled from it. Not to mention, and this is my own acceptance. Again, me hearing that from him, I was like, what? Like, my thing is this: everyone has a song, everyone has a vibe or a frequency or a story to tell. It's like their own song. Even other people I've met, because I'm not ashamed or feel guilty of anything that has happened, because I realize that in being on my journey, it's not what people call you, it's what you respond to, and can you be a vessel for others. Again, going back to questioning my sexuality, I'm fighting and wrestling with a spirit to where this could how could I say this? This could pour over or run over in a way to where not only are you in and out with women and you becoming a womanizer, because again, through my lens, I saw my mother do this. Again, how it affects the son is that the mother also, and this is everyone's reality, you're learning through every man and or woman. So I learned what it was to be a womanizer, or I learned what it is to, know how to emotionally manipulate. I know what it was to acknowledge and know how I could get my way. And that's because, again, you learn this through not only the relationship with the women, but you also learn this with the men. And now I look at it, these are the same people who were hurting all along. These are the same people now, just as myself, that didn't know the guidance of trying to reclaim the crown of glory, of their childhood innocence. They didn't know what that was. Seeing not men only womanize, but abuse women. Then seeing the cycle of how, the loop of those women still choosing them, whether they had kids or not, or, and seeing that behavior, seeing that, be peer right before me. You remember those things you used to have when we were little kids, and these things you put your eyes in and you press down and a picture will come up? It's just like that. That's how it plays out. So I'm not in denial of the fact that I have been with men and women, because the thing with me is that I had to acknowledge this because I was running from it so long. For me, on my journey, is that what was I doing it for? There were times where, again, I didn't see commitment. I was very afraid of it because I didn't know what love was. So through that experience with being, forced on and thinking that this is a part of my life and how love is supposed to be displayed, that got me to a place where, that womanizing spilled over into, like, okay, men like me as well. So what should I do? Okay, maybe I should just simply, if they like me, I don't have to do anything. Or I can receive, and this is what happens with a lot of people, is that they will receive gifts in a way of fulfillment, but they're knowing that they are manipulating people, or they're knowing that they are trying to one up on someone or trying to feel a sense of fulfillment. There's no emotional there. There's no strings attached. So in a way, you're meeting people and you have no intentions on not even loving them, but being loved or being accepted. Because again, we don't even know what that looks like. A lot of us don't know what that looks like because we had this distorted mother and father through the uncles, through the fathers that wasn't there, through the mothers through the aunties, you know, through the verbal abuses, through all these things. And as much as we want to run from ourselves, we are reenacting this. It's like a stage. You are reenacting these things that you haven't acknowledged within yourself. That's why you will see not only men do this, but they never seen their mothers in a committed relationship. They never seen their mothers happy, and this is not all, but they never really see their mother. They see their mother suffer with so many things mentally, and it spilled out, or it reflected back in their physical. Then not only that, you have some men and women, or what I call is that mothers who are due to their unhealed, unevolved wounds, they will have a mental, and it's like this is very graphic in a way, but it's like mental incest with their child. Doesn't have to be physical, but people will have an intimate relationship if they don't know how to let go. And this is through emotional attachment. And this is through, again, spiritual warfare. This happens with fathers and their daughters as well. Because you got so many people, again, when a lot of things happen to us traumatically, especially when it comes to molestation or some type of, you know, physical abuse or some type of, you know, rape awareness, to the root of that, I guarantee you, the person that was either not just victimized, but the person who inflicted what they did, most likely probably has experienced something similar. And what this does is that when the victim will, you know, get this sense of like feeling empty, and for some people it happens differently. They will move on with life as if not only it never happened, but they know in their mind subconsciously it has. So they carry this. A lot of women carry this in their wombs. You know what I'm saying? And then in carrying that in your womb space and carrying that in your heart and your chakras, because you're talking about the fact, one, this is gonna get real deep because it's coming to me. You're talking about if a man has forced himself on a woman, that semen can stay in a woman's body or a child up to years. Because you're talking about not spiritually, but energetically. You're talking about how that semen from that person can stay in that person if they don't know what it is to cleanse themselves. So you're talking about people who, again, even my circumstances, even if I got kissed, you're talking about saliva. You don't know what this person has did the night before. And so that's how deep it goes. You're talking about, it's not just the surface. You're talking about, there's a saying I always say, like, what's not acknowledged will someday fight. Well, what's hidden will someday fight to be acknowledged. And this is why I speak about these topics, because you have different eye colors or different people who has also been affected by this. So even in all of that, you got people now that's like, it's an identity crisis, and they're reenacting this. And not to mention, you know, this also leads people into these dynamics, whether it be career, whether it be in a way to have a sense of power. Men and women using their creative energy, or using their privates, or whatever you want to call it, to lure people in a way, or to feel a sense of empowerment, like they have some type of power. You know, not realizing energetically you're intertwining, or, you know, even with people who this has happened to. You're talking about these people having to live with this however many years, that when they were forced upon, when they were raped. Like, this shit is that deep. Not to mention men who also this happened to. One somebody, I can say it, but me being in this connection with this guy, and, you know, honestly doing stuff. And me, I was in this space of where I was doing stuff knowing, and this is for a lot of women. I'm gonna tell y'all the real. A lot of what, you'd be surprised why a lot of men will live this double life. Because for one, you got some people will say, because so much of our women have been hurt to where they're not in that feminine place. And a lot of women who have been hurt and are wounded hold this image of a man to where it's not even in a healthy way. So they get with a man, let's say, that is living a double life that is hidden. So what happens is, why a lot of men do this is because they and it's not for everyone. They live this lifestyle because traumatically they're living out childhood wounding, but if they don't feel accepted from the women in their mind's eye, which is probably unhealed, then a lot of them go to feel a sense of security or acceptance because either that man holds a space of femininity, or it's a place you're trying to do it where, you know, they keep it hidden for so long to where a lot of men do it because they've been so subconsciously programmed or so psychologically, you know, destroyed because the women in their life prior to being in the presence or being with a man, they destroyed them mentally to where they don't even feel like they're valuable or they're accepted or that they feel important in the world. So, because, and see, this is why I bring the accountability to both men and women, because women have a way of, you know, if they don't know who they are within themselves, being, if they're not healed or unhealed or haven't evolved or unaware of how their feminine principles, you know, if they haven't acknowledged their wounding, they can destroy a man with their mouth. And this is from experience. This is from experience of like healing verbally, trying to get that out of my head of, you know, your mother saying you're not this, you're not that, or, you know, just women, and then coming to their awareness that they're fighting their own spiritual warfare. Not to mention, these are the same men, again, who also have been not only verbally abused, but physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all these things. And probably a lot of them have been molested. Not to mention a lot of women too that are afraid. And it's not to say you don't have the courage to speak up, but a lot of women that have, again, been affected by another man who, again, when you're talking about having a man, all women carry in their mind an image of a man. And that is solely based on whatever they experienced through men, through every man that they met. And whether that is healthy in a holistic way or unevolved or in a unhealthy way, in a way of like, you know, wounded way. So they're living this out. So again, when they meet another man and, you know, they don't realize whether they are aware, and most haven't healed, that they will relive or reenact whatever they experience, whether it be, you know, reenact this wounding. And so that would create more chaos. That would create more instability, you know, because a lot of women have been in so much of a masculine place, because everyone carries energy a different way. But you're talking about a wounded aspect of them. So they carry this, and the father being the masculine energy, the mother being the feminine energy, they're carrying this unhealed version, or this version of a man to where, again, that may not know commitment, because everyone didn't grow up in homes like this. You did have people who grew up in, you know, more healthier environments. But this is even to bring awareness to why, again, why men have done what they did, even such as myself, is because in certain dynamics, we all have felt alienated. We all, this is why, and it's not for everyone, when you see people venture off into living out these this reality of like, this is their sexual preference or whatever. I fought with that shit so long. I'm telling you from experience. You have a lot of people fighting with spiritual warfare. I fought with it because deep inside of me, and you're talking about a man from experience, I wanted so much because of what I grew up on to just be and have a tribe, a family, a healthy dynamic. But so much of me that I was so conflicted, battling inside, to where not only was I fighting a spirit of a Jezebel spirit or a question of my sexuality and all these things, it also led me into the fact of battling with a spirit of commitment, stability, you know, all these things that, again, simply trying to find inner peace within myself. And that's what a lot of men, well, to my women, men are trying to, they're desperately trying to find within themselves. This is why a lot of them are on their, like, being initiated in the spirit. It happened both ways, but if our women don't realize that you too are wounded, we're wounded, and so we're trying to heal. So you have people meeting who also, and this is why a lot of relationship dynamics that you can relate to is because a lot of probably what that person is sharing with you that's reflecting back to you, most likely you're either trauma bonding, you're trying to clear something karmically, and more so, not to mention, you're intertwining with people who, again, from a karmic perspective, you both, wherever your family lineage, whatever has happened, and whatever has happened with them. So you're talking about the fact of women and men both probably, most likely, because you're talking about people here who has went through some type of sexual molestation, some type of rape. You're talking about ancestrally people. You're talking about, again, a land, a place that this has happened for generation and generations. So this is why you're seeing, again, a lot of us that are coming out and speaking about this, because it's not nothing to be shameful or guilty about. It's the fact that I realized my wounding. I realized what I was reenacting. I realized what I was living out, the energy that was playing out. I'm not here to try to convince people that, oh, you got to accept me, believe, no, anything. It's just the fact of, this is what a lot of men are not speaking about. Not to men that came from prison, you know, that most likely they were forced upon. You know, you're talking about, again, even women that don't talk about what they've been through. They've shared their story, but you're also talking about people who've been affected to where I've had people that tell me how they've admitted this to family members or to their mother or father, and they deny everything about that. Do you know what that does to a person internally? Do you know what that does for someone to tell you they love you and turn around and really say that, you know, they don't believe nothing you say? I don't believe this person to do that. You have to live with that subconsciously, because then that begins to question yourself, question not only who you are, but question your sexuality, question your existence, question everything that you're doing in life until, again, it creeps back around. It's haunting you. And so what people do, they'll get into these relationship dynamics, and before it even reminds them of anything that looks similar to what they experience, because you have both who live off that, who are fueled by that. That's a spirit that's fueled by that narcissism, that control freak, or even using, you know, that lower nature in a way to not even co-create, but use it in a way to just simply lure people in. That's the Jezebel spirit. That happens in both. And so this is what you have been seeing in the past that's clearing right now. That's why people are being faced to see their wounding, faced to see themselves, because they can't run from themselves anymore. This is what has been happening generations up to now, where we're choosing to heal, where we're choosing to acknowledge our wounding, where we're choosing to realize, like, we're able to see this for what it is, acknowledge it. This is why you're seeing some people go on their journey to be self-improved, self-care, self-love, ridding themselves of so much of, you know, spiritual warfare. You know, it's not about a physical thing. It's so much about, it begins first in the spiritual. So what I saw play out in my reality is the fact of there wasn't commitment there. Because again, in the past, I didn't know what that looked like. So this is what, again, men and women do. Because you didn't grow up in a society that, and not everyone, but you didn't grow up in a society where you saw a lot of commitment. Not to mention the psychological warfare on television where you saw people that looked like me per se, not in even being patronized as if there's so much dysfunction. Not realizing these are fucking people who are going through mental illness to keep it looping, and you're seeing this play out. You're seeing people, music, or whatever it is play out in a way of like, oh yeah, it's okay to just do this to shawty, not give a F, rah, 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 rah. That's cool. But now people are now being faced with their emotional traumas, now in their childhood wounds. Now people are being faced with this shit. Again, you know, that question and confusion and being in conflict, you're questioning yourself. You're questioning like, am I this? Am I that? And it's, for me, it's not even about the title in itself. It's about, because everyone's journey is unique. Everyone is who they are. I'm not here to tell someone what it is. I'm speaking about on certain woundings, again, for myself, and bringing to awareness with people who have been affected by this, and how, again, at a time, I was a victim. Now I'm a victor. Now I'm able to speak about it. Now I'm able to write poetry about it. Now I'm able to share it. Not fearing how the world's gonna view me. It's about the fact of how traumas is passed through the womb. Acknowledging that our mothers and our foremothers and, you know, grandfathers and great-grandmothers, and how a lot of the matriarchal, you're talking about a spirit that's been passed through the wombs. You're talking about things that our women have been fighting with, not just you, your daughters, if you don't acknowledge it. They are susceptible, or, you know, see all this stuff. And it's not even about being powerful and empowered, you know, loving on themselves. It's simply about shit that's lower nature. Men too. Because, again, it goes back to how, if our daughters don't know the importance of their womb and who it is, then how they're going to become a mother that will produce either or another princess or another prince that will become a father and a mother. So again, you're talking about a cycle. You're talking about the fact that a lot of people have been affected by this, that trying to feel a sense of wholeness again with their partners. This is another thing they face with. Because a lot of us have the programming of not even loving ourselves or feeling whole. Giving just an aspect of ourselves, knowing that there is no fulfillment there. Unless when you get to that awareness of like, you're co-creating. So we've been having this generationally go on where, you know, the babies and the people have been created from a place of trauma and pain. Because what connects us all? Pain. But what also connects us? Love. We don't acknowledge and talk about these things. Who will? So again, women, you're talking about a lot of young men. And this was this one guy, I was getting back to that story, how he came out and was telling me, like, they've been doing this as little boys. This was been going on in school. Not to mention, he was touched on by his uncle. So I'm listening to him like, did you hear what you just said? So it brings awareness to me like, why am I doing this again? So then you're receiving, you know, you have no intentions on even being this way. Because it's not for everyone. I'm talking about me. I had no intentions on being or doing these things. It was just so more why I was doing it. Where is this coming from? So that can look differently for everyone. I met women who also told me that you're talking about kids that were kissing on each other. We're doing these things young, and we thinking it's like we parade this shit, this perversion. We have been parading it as if it's like okay. When you're talking about so many people that have been affected by this in places that you would not even believe. So and the mental illness is all in its entirety is how we just accepted, like not only accepting the pain, but the beauty on my journey of how even really reflecting and listening to the stories people would tell themselves, the delusion, and you're realizing this is a mental illness, a disorder, because it's different for everyone, but they're really living this out as if, you know, that's all there is what I'm getting at. Like, this is all there is. There's nothing more. Because you really have people that really look at life like, you know, they don't see past their circumstances. They don't believe that they can heal. They don't believe, and that's the thing about a narcissist. It's like they don't believe that, they don't know how. It's never been shown. You know, these things have never been shown to us. Like, you're talking about you having parents who also are fighting with these things. You're talking about even porn. Because it's different for everyone. That's another thing. When I was younger, like going through these things, I would get in relationship with women that was much older because, again, seeking out this motherly figure to where I could try to find some type of nurturing, some type of something. And then in that, what you will find most men do, or what I was affected, what I would do is like, again, there was nothing about commitment. It was just simply about sex. It was just simply about, you know, whether you got dynamics where men will get in relationship with women with kids. But that woman is looking for security. She's looking for some type of emotional security. You know, that man is more just thinking with this. He's not caring at all because, again, the culture we grew up in. You're talking about men who grew up in environments where only thing they saw was not only womanizing, but the devaluing of women, destroying them. And you're talking about seeing that happen. You see women destroy men with their words, with their actions, because it happens. And then you're talking about a place and environment now where what discipline do we have? We're learning discipline now in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. And so, and this is happening even with women. That's why I always encourage people, man, go heal your relationship with your father. Or those men that resemble that. You know, it's times where I had to go apologize. It's times where I didn't want to do things. I had to apologize to myself for keeping the loop going. You know, who's going to change it? With our women. Who's going to change it if it's not you? Who's going to acknowledge this? You know, that's the dark aspect of what we want to hide. Our shadow follows us everywhere till we're in the darkness where we're faced with our darkness. The shadow leaves and now we're faced with seeing our light. You're talking about, again, a narrative that has been pushed to where people are just thinking like, oh, we didn't think that eventually it was going to, you know, run its course, where we have to be faced with the reality of this. Promoting these things, and now we're faced with the reality of this. I want to bring the awareness again as a man that represents the patriarchal, that carries feminine energy. If I'm going to honor what I've experienced and been through with women and acknowledge it, I got to call myself out before I can go out here and tell or even express to someone like, you know, that's messed up, or not even telling you what to do. Is bringing awareness to the fact of like, do you know what you're fighting? Do you know what you're going up against? Have you really acknowledged the fact that you have inner woundings? You know, not to mention, you know, it's just so many things. You're talking about career, you're talking about status, you're talking about all these things where we're just doing things to be seen, to feel, to be accepted, to be acknowledged. This is the inner child in us doing this. This is the soul crying out. So the thing with a lot of, again, with men is that a lot of their unhealed woundings or what they haven't healed from goes all the way back to their childhood. So not only are they've been mentally destroyed by the women who are also probably physically, mentally, spiritually abused in some type of way. So not only are the women using their words and are emotionally unavailable, these mothers who don't want to heal, don't want to acknowledge it, or refuse to, this creates resentment to where that son eventually will end up rebelling or finding a way to where he's battling spiritual warfare. He's trying to find himself. And this is what you see playing out. This is why you see them homeboys in the crowd. Yeah, they're around all the men. And this is real. They're around all the men because not only do they feel accepted, but you know what goes on. A lot of them dudes, man, that probably have went to jail and all that. The reason that, if you want to call it, it's not so much, because what's hidden always comes to the light. It's not so much of being on the down low. It's so much of what's the behavior, what really fuels that? What really fuels that? Why did it come to that? Do you really know why a lot of these men do that? Especially a lot of them that have went to jail, then went to prison. Not to mention they come home portraying this image of that they're being tough. But really in reality, they have probably been victimized or been raped. Or probably something with their uncles or father. You never know the backstory to what somebody really has went through. So that's why you see these dudes, they're not afraid. They're afraid to change because they don't want to. They fear the criticism because they've been criticized so much. They've been devalued, just like the women that we came from has been devalued so much. So we're just trying to find a sense of peace. So the peace that they're trying to find, they find it within those community of men or gangs or whatever you want to call it. But they reenact this behavior, or this unhealed. You see them reenact this unhealed masculine, because to the depths of it, again, what they've learned or experienced through men and women, they're just reenacting this behavior. This they're trying to, and the same thing go for women too. You have a lot of women that don't tell a lot about stuff, who have been, been with these things with men so much to where they refuse. People choose this. They refuse to even be in relationships with another man, because you're talking about people who have been sexually abused, molested. So I get it. I've seen it. They don't want, they need that emotional support. Because you're talking about people out here that don't, you're coming from environments and places that emotionally unavailable people, because they haven't honored and they don't even know what that looks like to embrace their emotions, sit in their own darkness, sit in their own shit, heal. You're talking about a lot of us have came from an environment. School didn't teach us this. School taught us or introduced us, sex ed or whatever you want to call that. But that's not teaching you to be very mindful of how you interact with these people. You're not knowing where it leads to. Or this is not, telling you to be aware of, like, you're talking about people in middle school, high school, all this stuff has already happened to them. Not to mention, you're talking about people who prey on this, who use this. And you're talking about an environment now that's been, you're seeing it come forward. Now all this stuff is outing about all this molestation and all this abuse. It's so much more. And I'm telling you from even modeling. I'm telling you from, I know women that are afraid to speak about this, because you got people who also have been threatened. You're talking about a fact of a little child, or these women who have had men come in, again, women who haven't had a father figure, who don't really know what that looks like, who sometimes haven't had the best relationship with their mother. So, they venture off into these things not knowing it's going to eventually lead to a place of self-destruction, or bringing you always back to yourself, to your woundings. No matter where I did and how I went, no matter where I ventured off to, it brought me back to myself. I was with someone that, she told me, she was like, I don't think you really know how many men I've been with. I'm not sitting here aware of, like, I don't care. But she did tell me her story, what happened to her. But again, you're connecting with these people. The divine is showing you these people because it's something I want you to see here. It's something is you're not seeing that I want you, that you need to acknowledge, because someday it's gonna be, and not to mention you talk. Oh my God, this is be very triggering now. I know elders who have had kids by people who they were forced upon. Not to mention, you're talking about she still kept her kids. You got women out here who were forced upon, who still kept their kids. You got men out here, oh gosh, that it's deep, y'all, who have did things with their kids. Women too, like this. You're talking about this is a sickness. This is an illness. This is spiritual warfare, yo. This can go so deep to where, again, some people aren't even aware until someone brings it to their awareness. And it's different for everyone, but I know from my experience, the stories I've heard, you're like, what? No way. And you're talking about people trying to live with this, trying to feel again, you know, trying to live this out, because they think that that's the only way to live this out. That's why part of even me being on this journey is to bring awareness to this. It's like me being like almost, I say it's almost going on 2 years without having relations with someone. And I mean, no kissing, like in the mouth, no nothing. You know, no, have I flirted? Of course, that's natural, but it hasn't went no further than that. Because one thing I will tell you on this journey, when you're in this process of doing this, there's discipline that comes with this. There's a discipline, because it's different for everyone. There's a discipline because it's just like alcoholism, or it's just like, you know, these people that drugs, it's the same thing. It's like, it's discipline in everything. This is just my journey. I'm not trying to force anything, make anyone believe anything. But I do know a part of me having to go through this journey, I wouldn't be here if I gave into, you know, being led off my sexual desires. I had to get to this place. Then then you will be able to see and recognize who's really going through something and why they're doing it. Not to mention the danger in that shit. You remember there was a time where people would use unprotected sex or whatever it was, and you're talking about people, because this is where the journey goes for some people. Not only where they start living out that trauma, it'll keep going to where you have people that, I'm talking about, it'll get bad to where STDs come into play. A lot of stuff comes. Because some people say STDs are sexual transmitted demons, or, you know,